Well, let the jockeying begin. That's what Professor of Political Science and Director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University says about Senator Debbie Stabenow's decision not to run for re-election at the end of her fourth term. Dave Dulio joins us live from Lansing to talk about the future. Dave, was this a surprise to you? Because it seems like it was a surprise to most. She kept it well hidden if it was.
Good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think it was a surprise to everybody. The reaction of Senator Stabenow saying she's not going to seek re-election in 2024 seems to have sent shockwaves through Washington and through the state of Michigan politically.
And while everybody is praising her for her service, obviously the focus seems to be directly on who's next. What do you see?
Absolutely. I think that, in the next couple of years, we'll have a lot of folks talk about the impact of Senator Stabenow in not only national politics, but certainly Michigan politics. And at the same time, we'll have all sorts of people, I think, looking at this seat as a potential opportunity. It's going to be I think a wide open primary in both parties. We'll see, I think, a number of Democrats look at the possibility, with maybe some of them announcing that they're going to run and others not. At the top of that list, I think, and this is others have noted this too, Congresswoman Slotkin is maybe at the top of that list with some other statewide Democrats, maybe Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson, right? They might have a really good platform from which to run. On the Republican side, folks have already asked John James if he's going to look at it. And note that he hasn't even been sworn into his first term in the House of Representatives. But there are others across Michigan. I think some folks will talk about people like Mike Bishop, former Congressman, Tom Leonard, Tom Barrett come to mind. But I think one to really keep an eye on is Peter Meyer, who is over on the west side of the state. Just lost a primary in 2022 for a congressional seat over there. I think it's going to be a wild and wacky primary season that starts right now.
All right, so a notable name that is blaringly absent from your list, Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes, indeed. And, she's just started a 4-year term as governor. I think she has already beaten back the questions about whether she's going to run for president or not. And she said no multiple times. I take her at her word. But this wouldn't be the first time that somebody's changed their mind about running for a different office. And while we're at that, talking about Governor Whitmer, who said no to the presidency, a brand new, relatively new resident in Michigan, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, is now a resident, and maybe he looks at it. Although this morning he said he's not going to run, or at least is focused on his job now. So really, there could be a really interesting and really dynamic primary for both parties.
Wow. Now, see, that's why we bring you on, Dave. I hadn't even thought about Buttigieg, but I have thought about, and we've asked Debbie Dingell if she might consider stepping up. But that would create a whole bunch of trickle effect down, wouldn't it?
Well, I think you could. I think that's a great name to add to the list. But you're right. Anytime a sitting office holder, and the same would apply to Congresswoman Slotkin. Anytime a House member runs for the Senate, that would leave open a vacancy in that House seat, obviously, and then you do get that trickle down of even more jockeying by folks who might be looking at that particular seat.
So this is in a battleground state, as people like to call it. Do you see it having any effect on that title? Will it sway one party one way or the other to maybe establish itself?
Well, I think Michigan remains a competitive state with the right candidates running. Either party's got a real chance at claiming this seat. It would be a huge pickup for Republicans in 2024. A seat that they didn't think that they would maybe have an opportunity to compete for, and Democrats probably a seat they didn't think they were going to have to defend in 2 years. I think it's a competitive state with the right candidates. As I said, I think both parties got a real shot at it. I think, and something that we haven't talked about, but folks need to keep an eye on is the battle for the control of the state Republican Party. Who becomes state party chair? There have been a lot of folks that have thrown their name into that ring. But and who wins that could impact who gets support during a Republican primary for the U.S. Senate seat. And I think that just adds a whole other layer of drama, frankly, to this moving forward.
All right, care to throw your thoughts into the soup that is the McCarthy thing?
Oh gosh, boy, it's really something. You stumped me on that one, Mike. It's historic, right? We haven't seen this for 100 years. A vote for speaker to be go to even a second ballot, let alone the seventh that they're on right now. It really doesn't bode well for governing in the next 2 years, right? If this is supposed to be the easy part for Republicans to get together, advance their candidate who the caucus voted for as their leader in the next for the next 2 years. But if they can't, come to agreement on Kevin McCarthy as speaker or somebody else as speaker, it doesn't matter. How are they going to deal with really divisive issues, not just between the parties, but between factions of the Republican Party? Things like immigration or maybe a potential economic package, right? And the real issues that are at the heart of things to deal with inflation, right? Things that are really at the heart of what are troubling Americans right now are complex issues that I think it is going to be tough for whoever is speaker to navigate the differences, as I said, not just between the parties, but between the factions in the GOP.
All right. Interesting times in Professor Dave Dulio's world, the political science professor, director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Dave, thanks so much for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Anytime.